A good segue, really. It says Toney wants Arsenal, and I suppose that's the issue here as well. Let's just say everybody for a moment agrees that Chelsea should go for Ivan Toney. According to most reports, Toney would prefer Arsenal. They're leading the race. They're set to advance this deal for him in January to really kind of cement their title charge this year. So, firstly, if Toney's going Arsenal, it becomes an elementary point. Chelsea can't go and get him. They have to look elsewhere. They're talking about £80 million, though, Toney to Arsenal, Rory. Do you think that represents good business for him? And do you think that would be enough in January to maybe this time round secure your first Premier League in 2 decades?
Yeah, actually, I was just reading from John Cross in the Mirror that if Arsenal are going to get Toney done in January, we will need to basically come up with some clever way of doing it where we don't actually spend the money in January because we can't FFP where our hands are tied. So unless we made a big sale in January, then it's going to be difficult for us to do it. But no, I think it's a big sign. It would be a big signing for us, I think. It kind of ticks off 2 issues that we've got in terms of depth. I think we've got an issue with the striking depth beyond Jesus, and we've got an issue with the depth off the right wing for Saka. And if you bring in Toney, all of a sudden, if Saka gets injured, you can start Toney and move Jesus out to the right. And then obviously he'll compete with Jesus for the starting spot. So it's a great option, proven striker. I think you can't go wrong. And for 80 million is still steep. I think the numbers that we're talking, I know the market is inflated, but 80 million is steep. But we're at that point now where it's kind of the finishing touches on the squad, and Toney would be perfect.
You know what? Firstly, I think Premier League proven, I think, is a fallacy, personally. I think every single one of our teams, we have players that are one of our favorite players came from a different league and was just immense from the jump. I think all of us can think of somebody. Second of all, I find Arsenal, as a fan base generally, I find them quite amusing. Why I say that is because I feel like you can't tell them their flies undone without them insulting your mum or something. You know what I mean? Why I say that is because when they signed Gabriel Jesus, everybody said you signed a striker from a team that didn't have a striker when they won the league. They said, we won this and we didn't have a striker. And Arsenal said, we'll take your striker. And they swore up and down that this was the striker to deliver them from wherever they came from. He was going to be the guy. He was going to get 20, 30 goals a season. Just wait and see. 2 years later, they're replacing him with a Premier League proven striker. What happened to the striker that you said was the guy?
Playing on the wing where he belongs.
He misses 1v1.
He's not a striker, apparently. Now they need a striker to replace the striker.
I don't know which Arsenal fans you're referring to. I'm saying that it's an option to move Jesus out to the right if Saka is injured, and then you have Ivan Toney in there. There's nothing wrong with having depth. We saw last season relying on Jesus. He got injured. We had Nketiah.
But Rory, wouldn't you be like? Let's be honest here. He's not depth. If Toney comes in, he's not depth. He's a better striker than Jesus. So if you can talk about Jesus brings more to your game, then that's totally fine. But when you talk about goal scoring, there's no comparison. Toney knocks him out of the park.
I mean, actually, in terms of goals per game, especially non-penalty goals per game last season, he actually didn't knock him out. I mean, numbers are numbers. You can do what you want with them, but also, of course, what they bring to the rest of the team is important. Like, I don't know why you go, okay, but this striker scores more goals than this striker, and they play as a striker, so therefore he's better. Like, you want the most goals out of the team. You want the best performance out of the team. No. And what Jesus adds to all of the players around him, I don't think can be replicated. So
I get that, but when you talk about Toney's all-round game, he is the reason why Brentford was so good last season, because his all-round game is what makes their attack better. So when you talk about players improving game, that is what he would bring to Arsenal. And talking about the non-penalty got like goals per game and stuff, for me, that's just a shameless stat, because you're looking at a player that plays for Brentford, and then you're looking at Gabriel Jesus, who's played for the best team in the league for 4 years, and then went to the team that was the second best team in the league last season. And all I've heard last season was Arsenal fans complain about the amount of chances he missed, which a lot of rival fans, we prompted you when he was coming. He's not a striker. He's a guy that will come in. He will look good in the position, but he's going to miss a lot of chances. He's not a finisher. You can look at this season. He's missed how many chances already? Like,
the way you talk about Ivan Toney, George, is yes, he has been good on the eye and everything, but you have to understand that sometimes players just don't work in different systems. He was great at Brentford last season, a team that is 16th in terms of ball position. Going to Arsenal, a team that always have the ball, tight spaces, everything is completely different. He's asked to press from the front. He's never going to be asked to sit back and play on the counter attack. Go look at Brentford last year. Listen, I'm not knocking down Ivan Toney, but this notion that he's definitely going to work and he's better than Gabriel Jesus, who played for Manchester City, the highest team in the world in terms of ball position, going to Arsenal in a season that they had the second as, hold on, huh?
He was on the bench for City. That's the point. He played
Actually,
for them,
go look at his numbers and go look at his minutes, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, when Aguero was injured, he played. We get it, but he was a bench player.
Aguero was injured a lot of times. So Gabriel Jesus brings something
and
else.
They needed a striker.
Gabriel Jesus played a completely different element for Man City and Arsenal. I actually believe genuinely that if you take Gabriel Jesus out of Arsenal, the output of Odegaard, Saka, and Martinelli will change, which we saw it at Man City. When they brought a striker, it took away from everybody else. Yes, he scored 50,000 goals, but it took away from other. It's a system. It's a way of playing football. Like this notion that Ivan Toney will come in, and because Saka has 15 goals, Martinelli has 15 goals, Ivan Toney will add 30 goals to that, so the total will be 100 plus goals. I think this is.
I don't think that's
that has never been proven. By the way,
but what a lot of Arsenal fans say.
So let me ask you: it's hard. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what other strikers could Arsenal go out there? Is there any on top of your head that they could go out there that could be a better option?
I'll tell you one thing. So for me, I'm watching, for example, Oli Watkins. People don't like Oli Watkins. Every time I'm watching the guy, he's playing well for 2 seasons. But he doesn't have the spot on him.
So look at Toney's profile. Look at Jesus and Nketiah right there at Arsenal right now. Toney and Jesus is a very interesting combination because what Arsenal don't have right now is that versatility up front. Now you can take off Jesus, you can bring Nketiah, but Nketiah isn't a proven Premier League scorer, and Jesus ain't that great up front as well in terms of scoring goals. I think Toney will end up scoring more goals.
That's not all football.
He has that versatility. He has that versatility to Arsenal. You keep Jesus there. It doesn't mean that Toney has to start 38 games and Jesus has to sit on the bench for every single game. You have that option coming off the bench that if the game's not going well for you, let's say you are creating chances, for example, you can bring on Toney, and you know that he's a reliable goal scorer in the Premier League. And if you do need to create chances for Saka, etc., if the game's going like that, then you have Jesus there. I think this is a great two combination.
Yeah, of course I do. But
so normally here it's Nketiah.
I agree. No. Speaking facts, D. But that notion that Ivan Toney comes in, let's take Jesus out, throw him in the bin because he's not good enough, is ridiculous to me. Do we see?
I don't think it's a no.
Yeah, but no one's saying that though. No. I didn't say that.
No one said that.
You guys telling me. So logically here, let's speak logically. You guys are telling me that Arsenal will go pay 18 million pounds for Ivan Toney to have him as an option off the bench.
No, he's not.
To challenge Gabriel Jesus.
No, I'm gonna let Rory respond to that. Listen, people. All I'm gonna say is that we see how Arsenal play now with Nketiah and how the output of Saka and output of Martinelli and the way they play is different when Nketiah is there because the focus is only on them. While we saw Gabriel Jesus against Man City, how sometimes he just drives to the line. Let me just finish that point, and I'm gonna let you guys go. In my opinion, Gabriel Jesus adds a lot to this Arsenal team, even if he doesn't score goals. Yes. And he elevates everyone around him. And if you bring in an out-and-out striker like Ivan Toney, who has not proven in a position-based team before, and you put him in, you spend 80 million, and you go Jesus out, I think it's for me, it's strange.
But we've already seen Arsenal done it. They done it with their goalkeepers. They signed David Raya to challenge Ramsdale. So I'm not. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Arteta does it again.
I want to go to Rory first to Mo's question. Then I want to say something. Go on, Rory.
No, I think Arteta's made it clear. He keeps reiterating he wants two players for every position. So if you're going to compete at the top, then if you want someone that can compete with Jesus, then I think you do have to go out and get an Ivan Toney. Is he a different style of player? Yes. Does it give us a plan B, a plan C for different games and different opposition? Yes. Is it worth 80 million to us right now? Maybe, maybe not. Are there other areas that, if we're really limited in terms of FFP, are there other areas maybe we need to spend the money? I don't know.
But who starts if he does come in, though? That was the question.
But it's
It varies game by game. Like I don't. It's not like Arsenal don't have a team where it's just this player starts every game and therefore Jesus is benched. Like it doesn't work like that.
Rory, it's a simple answer. Jesus. Whenever a new player comes in, they have to work their way into the team.
To start with. Yeah.
When we talk about Chelsea, and you're looking at one of the best current strikers in Europe, Victor Osimhen, everyone's like, no, go and get Toney better. Tony's better. He'll make them better. Handle the pressure better. He gets linked to Arsenal, who are leading the race, and it can upset the apple cart. What happens to Gabriel? As opposed to if Chelsea would improve with Toney, again, let's call it as it is. We all know Arsenal, in my personal opinion, will become a better team with Ivan Toney in their starting 11 and or in their squad. So instead of focusing on that, the focus is going to be, it might damage Gabriel Jesus. And I just don't think Arsenal fans are starting to get into this mold. City fans believe in this. Liverpool fans do now they're winning. They didn't before they won trophies under Klopp. It's that the player don't matter. It's the team. I can tell you this now. George, answer this honestly for me, please, bro. I know you're an honest guy. In the last 8 weeks, since your team has gone from everyone writing you off to being top of the league, how many times a day are you thinking about Harry Kane?
I don't think of him at all. I even said that earlier on the stream.
Exactly. You don't, because your club is always more important than any player. The only time you would ever think about him is if it started badly and you weren't scoring goals, or we should have spent the money here. It can do that. At the end of the day, Arsenal fans do not get drawn out by the nonsense. If Toney comes in and Gabriel Jesus on the bench and you're a better team, trust me, there's no Arsenal fan who'll care. Only my club, by the way, can improve, but because someone's favourite player is on the bench, they start getting angry. I only really see that at Man United, and that's because I don't believe these guys are Man United fans. I think they use Man United as a fashion accessory. You know, like one of those weird man bags youngsters wear that look like handbags. I don't get them. I don't understand why that's fashionable. Someone's got to explain that to me. It's like a modern day bum bag. They weren't fashionable in the 80s, kids. But anyway, I digress massively. Like, they wear it like a fashion accessory. In fact, my cousin wears one of them bags. We're at a family wedding recently. He had it on. I was like, bro, what are you doing? He went, it's the thing. I didn't get it. Anyway, we moved. But like, it's like Arsenal, if they get this guy, and it kind of moves us into the title race chat. City are still the favourites. But if Arsenal sign Ivan Toney, in my opinion, they have an even better chance than they had last year, because I believe in that 5-month period, I think he can score them anywhere between 10 to 15 goals. He'll be a man on a mission. He'll want to prove himself at that level. That he'll be fresh as well, because he's basically going to have a prolonged pre-season ready to go. Listen, if you're a rival of Arsenal's and they sign Ivan Toney, they're going to get scarier. It's as simple as that.
And you know what? And I'll say this: Arsenal. I don't want Toney to go to Arsenal because one, they'll actually have a striker, and two, Ivan Toney is absolute quality, and Arsenal are ascending to the point where they're in the conversation. Well, they got to the point now actually where they're very much so in the conversation with City with being one of the best teams in the country. No, not in the country, in Europe right now at the moment. On form over the past 2 years, Arsenal are doing the business. So if they get another elite level striker, they're a terrifying team, and I don't want him to go to Arsenal. So I hope he doesn't. But I'm telling you, having a striker that will do wonders for you, Arsenal fans, and I promise it will.
It's scary. The combination is scary. You have Jesus and you have Toney. Like, you can just switch it up. Arsenal don't have that right now. And it's not like Toney's a different player and that's all that matters. Toney's a different player, but he also scores goals in the Premier League. You add that to this Arsenal side, and Arsenal are 100% getting closer to City. Like, it's a massive improvement. Massive improvement. Yes, there are still concerns in different areas of the pitch. Maybe you might need depth in certain areas, but I think Timber coming back in defense, that should help. But one thing for sure for Arsenal is that Jesus was a good signing, and he's still a good signing. But he's not going to win. Well, I say that because at Man City, for example, before you joined Arsenal, there were times where Pep didn't have a striker. He still wasn't using Jesus because he's not that striker to be known for scoring them goals to win you the title. But I think Toney, yes, he's not proven in terms of the top level, but he can score them goals. Jesus has other elements to his game that add to this Arsenal side. But Toney, the main thing is goals, and you put that into the Arsenal side, it's trouble. It's trouble. There's no ways about it. It's scary.
Oh, yeah, I was also going to say, I just don't think... I personally think that the deal won't be 80 million. I reckon the deal will probably be a bit lower. You're probably looking at around 60 to 70 million. And let's be honest, Arsenal spent that on Havertz, and they quite happily sit him on the bench here and there. So they've shown that they're happy to spend 65 to 70 million pound on a player that will be in and around the squad that's not guaranteed first team. So I don't see why it's not a good deal, honestly.
It is. Just changing the subject slightly. I just had a message. My daughter's got one of them bags as well, and I didn't even know. Fuck's sake. I didn't even know she had one. So your daughter's got one of them. I was like, oh, great. Turns out she saw my cousin with it and was like, I want one as well. There we go. And she's only 5. She's into stuff that's fashionable. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I'm getting so old.
I'll say this in defense of the bum bags. I use them. They're actually real handy to have.
I bet they are. You know what I do like? What I do like, and I saw, I don't know her actor name, but Jax in Top Boy. I don't know whether it's part of the clothes or a bag that attaches, but she had some kind of bag that was strapped to her front. That looked good. That looked really good. Like what she's wearing, I was like, that looks good. But it's just it's the bag. See, my cousin had it. He had a suit on, right? And this is how bad it was, right? He's quite young, and he took his jacket off, and it was on the
jacket.
Yeah,
like
a gun holder, bruv. Like a gun holder, bruv. Like it was, like, what
you don't
like,
wear it with a suit.
Man got ripped, bruv. He got ripped. He got ripped to pieces. But there we go.